You ever heard the saying, if it flies or floats, you should rent it? Well, what about the guy who rents stuff like this and makes $80,000 a year every single time he does? He does one deal and the average person can quit their job over it. Today, we're gonna be meeting Fitch, a good friend of mine that without him, I would not own this plane, all on creative terms. This guy is using aviation to make a ton of money. And the best part of this video today is not just breaking down his business and how he's doing what he's doing, but also how anybody 15, 25, 95 years old can make $10, $15, $20,000 in the next 2 weeks using this creative strategy where money is falling from the sky. What's up, brother?
What's going on, big dog?
Let's go look at some planes today.
Let's do it, man.
Let's go. Today, in this video with Chris and I, we're gonna be walking through the Falcon Field Airport and showing you skills that can be applied to any type of business, whether it's buying a business, a laundromat, car wash, RV parks, apartment buildings. Every skill that you learn in this video can be applied to all of those asset types. So stick around so you can learn those skills. All right, so most people look at an airplane and they see liability. You look at it and you say, dude, that's 80 grand, that's 100 grand, that thing could make me money for the rest of my life. What the hell kind of business are you running, man?
I'm running an aircraft flip business and an aircraft leasing business with the same exact creative terms that I've learned from the Sub-2 community.
Dude, I appreciate you, and I appreciate you saying that. It's crazy actually to see what you're doing with planes. Last year you did something like 25 planes, and what I understand, correct me where I'm wrong, you're taking an airplane, sometimes you're buying Sub-2 or seller finance, sometimes you'll do BRRRR, where you'll finance it up front, refinance with a good bank, and then you're turning around and leasing it to who?
I'm leasing it to flying clubs and flight schools primarily, and every now and then I'll find what's called a time builder, somebody who needs 1,000 hours to get to the airlines that fly the big things. Sometimes they'll lease it just one-offs, but my primary target is flight schools. I've seen the parallels between what Pace was teaching in real estate and what I was doing with my airplane deals. Anything you do with real estate, you can do with an airplane. And that goes all the way down to an airplane essentially going through a foreclosure. If you finance an airplane through the bank and you're not making your note, we call it closing, they'll close on you. They'll take the collateral back. So I've been able to find airplanes in that manner. I've been able to find tax liens on airplanes. I've been able to go out and fly for dollars, just like you guys go out and drive for dollars. I fly to municipal airports and I identify aircraft that I know haven't been moved in quite some time based off of the condition of the airplane. Like some things I look for is a real dusty windshield, grazed paint, hail damage, really low tire pressures, things like that. Like for example, let's say you find an old junker car in your grandpa's backyard. Well, you know that it hasn't moved in 5-10 years. I look for the same exact things with airplanes. And those are pain points, they're immediate pain points.
Simple reminder, this applies to every asset type. As you're looking for distressful situations where opportunities lie, it does not matter the asset type. So although Chris might be talking about airplanes right now, if you're somebody looking into RV parks or buying a business, everything that you're learning right now in this skill, it all applies. Where did you learn this?
So I learned it by being in the industry. I've been flying for 14 years. I'm an aircraft mechanic. I got familiar with the process, but simultaneously, I knew I had to invest. So I started at the ground level doing single family homes, but the timeline to success was astronomical. So I had to come up with a model that would allow me to accumulate passive income, but still replicate a model that exists. So I didn't reinvent the wheel on this. All I did was change out the asset class. Instead of single family homes, I'm using airplanes.
Okay, what's interesting is I would never think that somebody would want to rent one of these planes for that much money. What are they doing with the plane?
So I am business to business primarily. So it's not, Bobby Joe who's renting this airplane for the most part. It's another company who has an ecosystem in place to take care of the airplane, to pay the insurance, to pay the taxes, to pay the maintenance, and fifth and most important, to keep it flying and generating revenue.
This plane got refurbished, cleaned up, and now is ready to fly and it looks sharp. Are you having to do that on every one of these planes that you're finding?
No, absolutely not. So if I want the greatest margin and the deepest discount, I go and look for distressed airplanes. A lot of the times I buy aircraft turnkey. So I'll go source a lease, get it locked in, and then go buy an airplane. And the best part about this is I never see the airplane.
Oh my gosh.
The flight school flies out to the airplane, picks it up, ferries it, and it's turnkey, starting to generate revenue day one.
Where are these flight schools located?
All over the country. So if you get on the FAA website and just Google FAA 141 flight schools, the FAA literally generates a list in Excel for you, and you can just cold call all the way down the line until you find a flight school who needs an airplane.
You've got 5 to 10 schools right here on this airport, and you're telling me that you find distressed airplanes. I imagine those are maybe in somebody's backyard and you can't have access to them, right?
No, not at all.
Where are they located?
They're located right here on your local airport. So if you're in Jackson Hole, Wyoming, I would Google local airport in Jackson Hole, Wyoming, and then hit directions to, drive your car up, come out to the airport, and start looking for signs of distress.
The more I learn about airplanes and finding distressed opportunities, the more I realize this is applicable on every single asset type. It is absolutely crazy, the parallels between single family houses and airplanes. So as we look for airplane distress, we're finding the exact same distress. People in retirement, people going through divorce or breakups, or maybe they don't have the money to continue to repair the thing that they own. It does not matter the asset type. This is applicable to everything. So you're telling me we could find a plane right now that's in distress at this airport?
I'm not only telling you, I'm guaranteeing it.
Okay, so we go find that. Then you turn around, you buy on sub-2 or seller finance, and you then lease it to the flight school that's also in the same airport?
Yes.
Why the hell is the flight school not doing that themselves?
Because they're flight school operators. You know, as an entrepreneur, you get what's called FOMO, fear of missing out. So if a flight school started directing its focus to fix and flips and leasing, they'd no longer be in the flight school business.
Okay, let's talk some numbers. Let's get into, why don't we find one of these planes and let's find something that's distressed. You tell us what kind of plane it is, and you tell us what you think you could make on that plane if a seller sold it to you. Are you up for that?
I would love to.
Okay, let's do that. What are most of the motivators when somebody's selling a plane that's not being used?
Usually the operator of the aircraft has passed away. That's one of the biggest motivators. So what ends up happening is, let's say I'm the head of my household and I wanted to get my pilot's license and it was my dream and I did it, and then I went and got an airplane and that was my baby for 30 years. And I suddenly passed away, had a heart attack. The airplane got lost in translation. Everybody forgot about it because it was out of sight. And then a guy like me 5 years later brings it up to the family and says, hey, do you guys know you own an airplane? And you know, they'll tell you the whole history, whose it was, what happened to it. And then you ask them, hey, would you guys be willing to allow me to take care of this liability for you? And oftentimes they will give you the airplane.
No.
It's almost like curative title.
You'll literally just you'll just take ownership. They don't even want any money.
They don't, because it's such a liability for them to get it up and running.
Insurance, hangar fees, rental.
Maintenance.
Okay.
If you let an airplane sit for 3 to 5 years, your maintenance costs are astronomical to get it back to an airworthiness condition. And that's just one example with the distressed aircraft maintenance-wise. There's multiple areas of distress with an airplane transaction. You're behind on taxes, you're not meeting the note, somebody dies in the family. That not all distress means the airplane's in bad shape. So if, let's say you're new to flipping airplanes and you want to go out and get a distressed aircraft, it doesn't necessarily mean you should go out and get one that needs significant repairs. It'd probably be in your best interest to get through a full transaction first and get an airplane that's up and running within its inspection period. So same with real estate. You want to start with single family homes. That's my opinion. You're not going to want to try to get into the jet world. That's like taking on a multifamily deal and you've never done it before.
Okay, so here we are. We've got over, what do you call this? Hangars?
These are awnings.
Okay, so you got covered awnings out here at this airport. I own a plane now because of you and I don't even know what this is called. So I've got a little plane right here, it says Cherokee on it. I imagine that's a Piper manufacturer.
Yep.
Looks like an older plane. Would you immediately identify problems with this plane, or is this plane actually probably okay?
No, this plane's probably okay. And the number one indicator of that is my tires. I'm looking at my tires and the pressure and the windshield.
Okay, so first thing you're looking at is air pressure on the tire.
Correct.
If that's low, what does that tell you?
That means it hasn't flown in quite some time.
Okay, got it. So it's like broken windows on a house almost.
Exactly.
So I've got this plane. I want to go find you a deal. I want to bring Chris a deal because you're going to go and make a lot more money than me, but I'm a young buck. What are 5 things I should look at? Check those off the box before I even waste your time and say, hey, Chris, I found you a deal.
So the first things I look for in numerical order is 1, the tires. The condition of the tires are the very first thing that draw me in. And just even standing back and looking at it, you can see the airplane leaning one way or another. And then you identify that, hey, it probably hasn't flown in a while. 2 is faded paint. Cracked and creased paint are a big indicator that it has been neglected for quite some time. If it is sitting out in the sun and I've got a lot of cracked headliners, interior is not in good shape. Like the interior in this thing is in outstanding shape. It looks phenomenal. I have a pretty good feeling that this airplane flies fairly regularly.
Okay.
At the very least once a month, because they keep the windshields clean, they have good visibility, tire pressure is okay. The paint, it could use a paint job, but I wouldn't consider it a super distressed
What do you guys
situation.
call this piece of the airplane right here?
That's a wheel fairing.
Okay, a wheel fairing. Looks like there's damage here. That doesn't really indicate that this is a big problem, right?
No, not to me.
Okay.
I would be able to comfortably fly this airplane if I were to inspect the maintenance logs based off of the general maintenance and aesthetics of the airplane as it is now.
Hey, here's the thing. When you're listening to somebody like Chris or myself, you can very quickly get lost in the sauce because they're so good, they're so detailed. But what this should amplify is 2 things. Number 1, get out and take action. Number 2, take action and apply these skills with somebody who's a pro. Don't try and do this stuff on your own. It's pretty obvious Chris knows what he's talking about. In fact, probably some of it's going over your head. Maybe even some of my videos I've done about apartment buildings have gone over your head. But that should highlight to you that these skills should be applied while you work and JV with somebody who's a pro. Okay, got it. So why don't we go down the line and try and find a plane that you can identify that would be a good deal, and let's talk about what you think the numbers would be in your pocket or what you would maybe pay a bird dog.
Perfect.
Okay, so this one, which is like 4 planes in, you're my mentor, I'm your mentee. I got paint coming across, I got a whole paint job needs to be done. This isn't just maintenance, it looks like to me. It looks like a complete overhaul is being done here. They're missing all sorts of parts underneath. This thing looks like it's a distressed seller. Am I right or wrong here?
That's 100% accurate.
Okay, and then the other thing it seems like is they're putting a towel on top of here because it's sitting so long in the sun that they shoved the towel here. They know it's not really being flown a lot.
Yes.
And when somebody has a problem like this, airplanes are not cheap to fix, right?
Yep, they're not.
So this is an expensive problem that somebody has.
Yes.
Okay, so this is a good opportunity.
Absolutely. What you just did is identified all of my pain points as the owner. And you have no experience. Now imagine a guy with experience to identify even more pain points. It's multi-layered at that point because I still have to dig into the engine. I have to check my oil. I have to look at an oil analysis. I have to make sure that there's no metal inside the engine. There's not even belts connecting. There's multiple pain points that I can identify even further being a certified aircraft mechanic.
Okay, so you call a seller like this. What are you saying to them?
So when I call a seller like this, I use childlike curiosity and I don't let them know my experience and my background because it's not necessary. I'm only asking why they have the airplane, why the airplane's not flying, why the airplane is in a dilapidated condition, what's their plan to get it up and running, and then I identify all the expenses that they're incurring it sitting right here. This is not free. Whoever owns this airplane is paying monthly rent for this spot specifically. And it's probably not cheap because we're in a major metropolitan area. So to get into this as someone with no experience, you can technically do this with 0 money in the game. And what I mean by that is, let's say you found a distressed aircraft. A pilot dies, he has a heart attack, and he has a Cessna 172 sitting at the municipal airport. His wife or his heirs need to get rid of that aircraft, but they don't know how. And you come in because you have a pain point to capitalize on. Hey, ma'am, I understand that you're going through a difficult time. I would love to be able to help you get this aircraft off your hands. Would you be willing to be my bank? We can do seller financing, and then I explain what creative seller financing is, and this is how I can give you the number you want. If you give me the terms I need to relinquish the asset over to me, and then I go off and I either A, lease it as is if it's in great condition, or B, put some money into it and then lease it back out or sell it. And then you're asking, well, hey, you just said I can do this with $0. That's correct. Just because you have to put cash into it doesn't mean it has to be your cash. I do this in two different ways. First way is I get the terms I need for the asset itself. And then the cash comes from a private money lender or a hard money lender, and I bridge those together to create a spread. So the arbitrage on this is massive if you get your systems in place to churn this on a systematic process.
Any ballpark guesstimation on what this plane would, what you would pay for this?
Ballpark guess, I would pay probably $5,000 for this as is.
$5,000?
Yes.
Is it because you have so much work on this one in particular, you got to refurbish this? This is not one of those planes that you find and you can immediately put back into service. You have to take this plane, bring it to your shop. You probably have to take the wings off, put it on a trailer, take it to your shop in Texas, do work on it. So you're gonna say, I'll give you $5,000, just take it off your head.
Correct.
Okay, got it. And I can understand that. Like I'm looking at all the problems. You're gonna have to repaint this whole thing. You're gonna have to bond, what are you doing, Bondo?
That depends how deep that corrosion goes through, but a lot of times when I see corrosion like that, you may end up having to take a piece of the skin off the wing itself, and we call it reskinning. And metal work is not cheap.
Got it. Okay, so $5,000 for a plane like this. Once you get this operational, you're gonna put how much money into this plane?
This airplane particularly, if I knew I had a buyer lined up who had a set price and wanted a specific rehab, I would back into it that way. But if I didn't, I would look at 30 to 50 grand to get this thing up and going.
Okay, so now you're all into this thing, 50 plus closing costs plus the $5,000 purchase. You're into it, let's say $60,000 all in, right? And maybe you're 60 days down the road, you're 60 grand all in. You would maybe borrow private money to do that. Then you'd refinance with a lender. Do you think that if you rehab this thing, put 50 grand into it, it could be worth $90,000 or $100,000?
Absolutely.
So you could have refinanced Burr strategy-wise, get all your money out, and now you've got a loan with a bank, and now you can go lease this out, correct? All right, private money, you heard it. Every single asset type, even airplanes, need private money lenders. So those gators out there learning from this YouTube channel, guys, there's another way for you to deploy your money. Now, when you guys are going through and listening to these conversations, remember, there's always videos on our YouTube channel talking about Gator, private money, how you can raise money. But private money lenders aren't just putting money into houses or apartments or those types of things. Sometimes they're also lending money to people like Chris or myself when we're flipping airplanes.
This one particularly would be difficult to lease. This would be a flip. I would sell this to a private buyer and they would keep this as their hobby.
Dude, this is just like real estate.
It's literally just like real estate.
There's houses that I would never lease out. There's houses I just flip.
Exactly. So let's do this. Let me show you how I identify an aircraft within 10 seconds.
Okay.
So I look at that thing on the tail called the tail number.
Okay. So this is like the address of the, this is the address of the plane.
That's even better than an address. And I'll tell you why. When you get a list of distressed properties, you're able to skip trace the owner, and you got to go through this long, arduous process to actually get in contact with somebody who knows anything about the property, especially if it's a vacant property. With airplanes, your life is much easier because there's a giant number on every tail that says in and whatever the number is. If you Google the number on the tail, it'll say FAA registry information. You click on that link, and within that link, it tells you all of the information about who owns it, the owner's address, the type of airplane, the serial number, and it has to have an updated address. It's an FAA regulation. You have to have an updated address. You know the owner? See, look, that's better than Google. He knows the owner.
This is the same thing with, like, again, it's a parallel of real estate. Let's say I'm not an airplane guy, it's pretty obvious. I find a plane like this, I'm comfortable calling a seller and going, hey, I know a company, I have a friend that would be interested in buying this plane. That's what I would do if I'm a bird dog. I would just be curious and go, I know nothing about planes. I just saw your plane, had a flat tire, had a this, had a that. Would you be interested in selling and actually talking to my friend? I go find an interested party. I bring them to you. You pay me 5, 10, 15 grand, depending on how good of a deal it is. And I pass it on to the person that actually knows what the hell they're doing.
Yep.
Same thing in flipping. People that are like, I don't want to flip. I don't know how to raise the money, manage the contractors, pull the permits. I don't want to worry about balancing timeframes and inspectors from the city. I'd rather just find somebody else a deal and get paid today.
That's exactly what we do.
And how many opportunities are there? That's the thing. I look at this, I'm like, I can't even see half the planes in the hangars that are actually closed up. The ones that are underneath the awnings, that's pretty obvious. But are there ways that I don't even have to go to the airport and I can find these types of planes?
Yes, absolutely. So if you Google FAA registry, you are legally permitted to see all 300,000 FAA registered aircraft on a database. I just pulled the list 2 days ago, Excel spreadsheet. I literally have the names and addresses of every aircraft owner that's registered in the United States.
Wow. And so then you will be able to segment out and go, okay, I want these years, I want this make and model, and then you'll identify those things. And let's say that out of 300,000 registered planes, maybe you get 30,000 that would actually fit for you, 10% of them.
Yep.
Do you think that's accurate?
That's very accurate.
You see this phone right here? This is a portal to making money. The problem is you need to take this phone and dial a number. So the tool he's talking about when finding airplanes is the FAA list. For me, when I'm calling, let's say, single family properties, I want to call foreclosure, I want to call people in probate, I want to call people in divorce. I want to find distress situations on a list. And the place that I get those lists, I use Dill Sauce, you can use Zillow, there's a whole bunch of places you can go. Heck, you could even go to Crexy.com. But you need to find the list of the people you're calling, pick up this freaking moneymaker, and make some calls.
So, Case, what I want to point out right here is a prime example of a distressed aircraft.
Okay. Ooh.
Can we see flat tires?
Yes, flat tire.
Can we see faded paint?
Yes.
Can we see a windshield that hasn't been washed in quite some time?
Oh man, it's not just one tire, it's all three tires.
It's all of them.
Okay.
This is a perfect example. My inspection panels are taken off. So when this happens, as an aircraft mechanic, there was some kind of inspection that was going on and they left them off because they probably found something in here. They told the owner was going to incur a significant cost and just said, hey, I can't afford that right now, and left it.
Wow.
So that happens very often.
This is literally like real estate or businesses or anything. So let's say that I'm a bird dog and I'm just finding a deal for you. I see a plane like this, Cessna, it's the body type you want, year you want. This is obviously distressed. 3 flat tires, dust is growing on here, hasn't been cleaned in forever, inspection panels are open. This thing there's a major story going on here.
Yes.
What do? I call the seller and I say, hey, I have a buyer. Would you be open to a conversation? And I tee that up for you.
Yep.
That's it. You take it from there. I don't have to learn any negotiation. I don't have to learn any of the lingo, or I don't have to learn any of the stuff that you're talking about right now.
Correct.
Okay. I look at this thing and I'm like, okay, we are literally, I can see through this wing right now, I can see a training school that would probably take this plane.
If you look even closer, they're the same exact airplanes that they're flying that we're looking at.
You're lying.
They're Cessna 172s, all of them, their whole fleet.
Okay, we gotta go check this out. This is crazy.
Distressed aircraft, thriving opportunity, within 100 yards of each other.
I feel like I wish people that were watching this YouTube channel could actually understand what we're talking about. And Canyon, we're gonna have to get a shot through this wing at the planes over there on the left. They're blue and white striped. It's a training school that is literally the same exact freaking plane over there that these training schools are like, we want to expand, we want to scale, we have some, Is there a big demand of pilots in the United States?
So if you just Google pilot shortage or mechanic shortage, you'll see studies that show we are in a massive deficit for pilots and aircraft mechanics.
Many airlines say that they don't have enough pilots to fly their scheduled flights.
For a second straight summer, airlines are again struggling with staffing and schedules. American Airlines says it's been forced to ground almost 100 smaller regional jets.
When a major airlines needs somebody to fly planes like this Airbus, they often look to the regional airlines, those commuter jets over there, to find pilots. But that's making it increasingly challenging to find people to fly the smaller planes.
And what that means is there's a massive deficit in the labor force to actually do this type of work. There's a shortage in airplanes, there's a shortage in aircraft engines, there's a shortage in general aviation parts. So the demand is there. The market itself has created this niche for me. I've just been able to capitalize on sub-2 techniques to create better operational efficiencies within my business itself.
This is interesting. So every time I go over to this training school,
It even says, guys, it even says,
You're
"Buy
lying."
me on the windshield.
oh my gosh.
This is an opportunity.
Guys, just so you know, this is not us. Look, when I do it, it even makes it cleaner. Like, this was done weeks ago.
Dude, I told you. It's so easy because no one's looking.
I gotta take a photo of you next to that, dude. That is so crazy. Oh my gosh. How is that even possible, dude? They wrote "buy me" on the plane. It's so crazy to me that you can look right through the wing at the actual customer of the product. The product says "buy me" on it. The tires say "buy me." The freaking dirt on it says "buy me." The interior says "buy me," and nobody's doing anything with it. This has sat here for months, if not even maybe more of a year.
Based off of the condition of the tires, I would guess that this has sat here for years. Years.
I can see cracks in the sidewall of the tire, which that tells me the same thing.
Oh yeah. And guys, the longer it sits, the better it is for me, because not only do you see distress, when I pull this off, you've got dried out fuel lines, dried out air lines, you've got dried out oil lines. There's so many issues inside the actual power plant itself. Because it hasn't flown, it makes it a lot easier for me to negotiate, because most people don't have the resources to tow this to a rehabilitation center. This, you wouldn't be able to fly out of here as is right now.
Okay, so let's break down the numbers on a plane that is a perfect fit for you and your customers right there. All right, so before we get to my favorite part, which is breaking things down on the whiteboard, making all the numbers make sense and explaining that portion to you, I want to remind you why this is so inspiring. Chris started, he made himself all the way up, went through the Army, and ultimately the way he got financial freedom was through creative finance. He said, oh my gosh, what I'm doing in planes, I could take what PACE teaches in sub-2 and seller finance and all these things, and I could apply it to airplanes and go make a ton of money. In fact, he told me after all these years of being an airline pilot, he's never made more money in his entire life, even at a very top tier, than when he does the creative finance strategies on airplanes. So whatever it is that you're doing or what you want to do, whether it's RV parks or mobile home parks or single family, Section 8, any of those types of things, you take creative finance lessons that we teach on this YouTube channel and you apply it to what you want to do, all it's going to do is add fuel to the entire fire. All right, we're back in the house. We're going to talk about the numbers on these planes. I'm curious, we found a plane, we saw the training school, they're right next to each other. It's obvious that there is demand. It's obvious that I can go find these planes. I mean, hell, that one said buy me on it. Let's talk to Chris about what a typical deal looks like and how he can make money on a typical plane. So Chris, we got the magic whiteboard. We're gonna talk some numbers. You go find a Cessna, something like that. What is the typical workflow and what is the typical purchase price of that plane?
Okay, so the typical workflow is a lead comes in.
Okay, lead comes in.
Identify the aircraft.
So Chris takes this lead in and Chris says, I like this plane, it's a Cessna. I know that I can go and take that, and I know I have a buyer all the way down here. So you've identified that there's a customer already in your mind that you can bring that project to.
Yes. And then from there, I start identifying all the pain points from the aircraft. So everything that the bird dog identified for me, I already know that that aircraft is going to take some significant work to fly again. So at that point, I get a hold of the seller and I offer anywhere between $1,000 and $5,000.
You're joking.
Nope.
To buy that entire plane?
To buy that entire plane. I'm buying a problem.
Okay.
I'm not buying a good piece of equipment. I'm buying a significant liability for both of us.
All right, now if I'm brand new, I'm gonna stress out about what this person says to me. But what we're reminding ourselves is, guys, the bird dog is teeing up Chris for these opportunities. You're not the one that's negotiating. You're not the one that's going through all the additional pain points. You're not the one that's dropping the offer on these individual sellers. So don't worry about that, but we wanna break down what you're doing. So you're buying a problem, $1,000 to $5,000. Think the seller would actually take that on that plane?
I would certainly try it, but like all deals, I will have a max allowable offer. So this after repair value, after everything that I do to it, will give me roughly $100,000.
Okay, so your ARV on this deal is gonna be $100,000.
Correct, based off of the year, make, and model. I know that's top dollar.
Love it. So Chris knows based on comps that he can turn this plane into a $100,000 aircraft, which tells you you can back into your maximum allowable offer.
Correct.
Okay, or what have you, okay, MAO. So your MAO, I spelled this wrong. Forgive me, gosh damn, I make some mistakes, okay? So my MAO, you're gonna try and go $1,000 to $5,000 because you're assuming there's a bad situation. You also wanna anchor with that seller and let them know like, hey, I know how bad the situation is. You're not gonna say that, but you're gonna say, I'll take it off your hands, $1,000 to $5,000. They say no, hypothetically. You already know that's okay to go up a little bit because you have a little bit of room between here and here.
Yes.
However, from my understanding, when you're doing the BRRRR strategy or something creative, you wanna make sure that you're not all in at $100,000 when you buy this plane. You wanna be somewhere max, you wanna be somewhere probably around $70,000, I would imagine.
100% accurate. I will not go over 30% of my ARV.
Okay, so let's break this down for a second, guys. So we already know the future value of that plane we're hanging out at is $100,000. That's if Chris goes and fixes it all up. We also know that Chris is going to get financing on this plane after it's fixed up, so he's in the deal, no money out of pocket. The aircraft lender that he utilizes will give him a loan up to $70,000. So if Chris wants to be all in the deal, no money out of pocket, he wants to make sure that the last penny into that aircraft maximum is $70,000. Of course, he's gonna shoot for lower. It'd be nice, actually, he could do a little cash out refinance, get some money in his pocket and own the plane and lease it out, but that's the maximum he's looking at. So you look back at that plane and you go, okay, I might have an engine situation, I might have all sorts of other problems. What would you kind of guesstimate that you're gonna have to put into that plane to make it worth $100,000?
So right off the cuff, because of my operational experience, I know paint and interior is gonna cost me roughly $20,000 combined, and then an engine's gonna be another $20,000 if I have to repair the engine.
Okay, so I'm already looking at $70,000 is my target max investment I wanna make into this deal. That means I gotta take $20,000 for my interior and my paint, take $20,000 for my engine. Now I'm already all the way down. The most at that situation I could pay for that plane is $30,000.
Yep.
And that's not assuming tires and miscellaneous other things. You probably have another $10,000 of miscellaneous things on this plane, I would imagine.
Correct.
Okay, cool. So let's take another $10,000 off this. So really, your MAO, right, your maximum allowable offer is actually $20,000, assuming you're gonna have to do all of these things.
Yes.
Okay, cool. So you're gonna start with a $1,000 to a $5,000 offer, hoping you can create some pretty decent spread. If you can't get there, you're gonna inch up and get closer to 20 grand.
Yep.
Cool. So somebody says yes, they go, all right, yes, it's a problem. The owner actually passed away. I'm the son. It's been sitting there for a couple of years. We keep forgetting about it. And the awning rental is eating us alive. The insurance is eating us alive. In fact, we canceled the insurance because we couldn't afford it anymore. That's probably the story that's going on with this plane. You're gonna go to that $20,000 assuming you go all the way to 20 grand. You're gonna invest 10 grand in miscellaneous, $20,000 into the engine, $20,000 in paint and the interior. You're gonna be into this deal $70,000 and you're gonna refinance all your money out. You're gonna get a loan for the $70,000, but you own a plane that's worth 100.
Yes.
Awesome. So now, what are you gonna do? You've got a payment on this $70,000, right? You just went to a bank. Chris goes to the airplane bank, let's just call it the air bank. And the air bank says, hey Chris, we'll give you that $70,000 loan, but that's at, let's say 8% interest right now because interest rates are relatively high. You're gonna have a payment, I don't know, let's just say $1,000 a month. Cool, you have $1,000 a month payment. What do we do now?
I multiply that number by 4, and that's my rental price. I do it off debt service coverage ratio. So I do a multiple of 4 to ensure that I have contingencies in every situation.
So in your mind, you have $1,000 payment, whatever that payment ends up being, could be $1,200, $1,100, $1,400, whatever. You're gonna multiply that number by 4 to make sure that your debt service coverage ratio is taken care of.
Yes.
Okay, amazing. And then I'm gonna go and lease that to this buyer.
Yep.
And if I'm leasing to this buyer at 4X, let's say that this buyer, or this, I shouldn't say buyer, this client, this tenant, I should say, they're gonna rent this thing for hypothetically $4,000. Seems like that's kind of on the low end, but let's just say it's $4,000.
Yep.
What about maintenance and insurance and taxes and all of those types of things? Does that come out of your spread of $1,000 to $4,000?
No, I lease these on essentially a triple net lease. So how I structure all of my deals, I learned from real estate. None of this is original. I have taken real estate tactics and techniques and implemented a separate asset class.
So we've got taxes, insurance, and maintenance is really are the main 3 on this thing. Your tenant is actually taking care of all those things.
Correct.
And paying you $4,000 a month.
Yes.
So your spread on this, 1, you own a plane, you are the owner of this property. You own an asset at $100,000. Somebody else is taking care of the insurance, the maintenance, the taxes, etc., inspections, all of those types of things, which are pretty expensive. You avoid all of that. You get a $3,000 a month income, let's just say on this particular example, and you got a massive tax benefit over here because you keep the depreciation.
Yes.
Holy crap. What's crazy is I've never seen a single family home one time cash flow $3,000 a month.
So Pace, what you're describing is my 3 pillars of wealth. That $3,000 is my cash flow that I net. That tax is depreciation, and that $100,000 is appreciation. So everything you teach, you just outlined with an airplane.
This is amazing. Okay, so he's got an asset here that goes up in value, especially if we continue to maintain that plane. We've got our tax benefit, which wipes out other active income we have on actually the cash flow. We get to keep our cash flow, which is insane. And one freaking deal can make you $3,000 to $6,000 every single month on just a little plane like that.
Every single month. And the beauty of that is the cash flow that you identified is a minimum. Most of my tenants, my lessees, fly double my minimum. So right there at $4,000 a month, that's if they fly roughly 60 hours a month. Most of my clients fly the airplanes between 90 and 120 hours.
Okay, so I'm gonna bump this number up in some months, some situations.
Yes.
This is a minimum, but it could go all the way up to, let's say, $8,000 a month in a crazy month, but you're probably averaging somewhere around $6,000 a month.
Yes, on this particular deal, yes.
Okay, so he's underwriting the number here, guys. He's making a decision based on minimums, right? He's not gonna go, oh, well, assuming I get $8,000 a month. He's not gonna do that, he's too smart. He's gonna go to the minimum, which is a contract he has with the lessee, which gives him a $3,000 a month spread between his payment to the bank, right? And by the way, he has no money in this deal. And this is why people will go, why would somebody pay a bird dog to bring them a deal? Well, the reality is he got a free plane and he's got cash flow. You mean to tell me he wouldn't pay a bird dog $5,000 to $10,000 to bring him a deal like this? That is where the value is, where people that are brand new in the business, they go, well, I can't do all of this. You're right, you can't. yet, right? You can't jump into this and go, I know where to get my paint stuff done. I know how to get the interior. You don't know that stuff. That's why you collaborate and work with somebody like Chris Fitch, and you bring those deals to Chris, you communicate with him. And by the way, if you're in the Sub 2 community, he just built an entire course step by step by step. I think it was 8 hours long, exactly how this all works, what's the workflow, etc. So if you're in the Sub 2 community, head over to the Sub 2 course. Chris, if I'm a bird dog, I don't have to negotiate. I don't have to worry about the financing. I don't worry about finding the tenant. I don't worry about refinancing with the bank or even qualifying for it. I don't have to worry about the engine names, a single part on the plane. I just go find situations where somebody says, flat tires, broken window, this is a situation, call them up, see if they'd want an appointment with you. You go structure the deal, and how good of a deal you structure, you come back and go, dude, that was a really great deal. I'm gonna cut you a check for 10 grand. Or, hey man, this deal didn't work out as well as we planned. We're still gonna do the deal, but here's my cash flow, and I gotta do a lot of work to get this plane off the ground. I'm gonna throw you 2,500 bucks. I imagine each deal is going to be different every time there's a different plane, right?
Yep.
Have you ever done an identical deal with the identical numbers?
Yeah, absolutely. This is right within my buy box range between 100 and 150,000 is where I like to keep it. And the reason for that is the financing is very easy for me to get with this particular model right here.
All right, if you guys have watched this far, you guys deserve something. We're gonna give you a Chris Fitch checklist. And this is the checklist on exactly how this process works. I do this, then this happens, then this happens, then this happens. It gives you a structure and a step-by-step guide and exactly how you guys can jump into the game and do this too. It's kind of crazy that you can make money this way. In fact, I'm like, show me a check for $70,000, I'll quit my job right now and come work for you. That's literally how I felt when I met you, dude. And I heard all this story and I'm like, you're blowing my mind right now. And think about this, Chris is going to go do, with the help of potentially you, and with the help of the Sub 2 community that he's a part of and he's helping, he's gonna be doing Zooms and trainings and people are gonna be bringing these deals to him. If he goes and does 100 deals just like this, his net cash flow for his company is $300,000 a month in just 1 year's time. That's insane. That's $3.6 million in net in your pocket money, and you're not paying tax on it, and you've got $10 million in planes in your fleet that are just bringing in freaking money every single month. Insane.
Would you like me to add in a bonus?
Yes.
All right, what's going on, guys? Let's say you don't have access to an airfield, but you do have internet and a computer or even a phone. What you can do is get on controller.com, which is an aircraft listing service. Think about this as the Zillow, but for airplanes. And then you're going to go into the upper right-hand corner in the search function. You're gonna type in Cessna 172. And then you're gonna hit enter. And then we're gonna add some filters in there. The only filter we're going to add on this deal is a total airframe time of 5,000 hours. And that gives me plenty of leeway to either A, flip this airplane, or B, lease it out. I would click on every 172, starting with the one in the upper left-hand corner, and aggregate a list of anything that has a total airframe time of 5,000 hours or less, which are already put in the filters, and a time since major overhaul of 1,000 hours or less. So I'm looking for engine times. This right here is perfect. Has 823 hours since major overhaul. That fits my buy box. So this is an airplane I would definitely inquire about. So what you can do is email the seller. You type in your name. I'll put my name in there and put, hey, my name is Chris. I am interested in your airplane. Please give me a call. And the reason I'm vague is because I want the call and I want to identify pain points. So when you're building this list and you're inquiring via email, try to get them on the phone. When you get them on the phone, You can then just rapid fire your questions and you'll have a script. I'll give you that script on what I ask, and it identifies negotiating points to reduce this price right here. This aircraft as is, I would be able to pay full asking price, but that would leave no room for my bird dog fee. So if I had to pay $135,000, I would be expected to release this out immediately. So what you still need to do is aggregate your list. But other than that, guys, that's how you look for an airplane on the internet using controller.com. There are a few other websites like Facebook Marketplace, Craigslist, Barnstormers. All right, guys, this is Trade a Plane. You can do the same thing. So we're gonna go to single engine piston. We're gonna go to advanced search. We're gonna type in makes. We're gonna go to Cessna, models. We're gonna do only 172. There are gonna be no special use. 1975. The total time is gonna be 5,000 hours. I'm gonna leave all of this blank, and I'm gonna leave this blank as well, and we're gonna hit the search function. Now, let's find an aircraft that's timed out. And what I mean by that is that there's a lot of time on the engine. That number right there, that high airframe time, is why that purchase price looks like that. So this is an aircraft that has probably been sitting for a while and hasn't sold because it has a high airframe time. And what a high airframe time does is it reduces the overall value of the aircraft. This interior definitely needs to be replaced, and the panel needs to be replaced. There's tons of value add in this aircraft, tons of equity already built into this deal if I were to chase this. This is an aircraft that I would definitely add to that buy box. I can take 25 single engine airplanes and do a 1031 exchange and exchange up.
So what he's saying is at some point, let's say some of these tenants say, hey, we're done with this plane. He says, I don't want these planes. I want to go get into the big boy stuff where I can make $2-3 million on one plane. He can go sell 25 of his planes and roll that money into a much larger plane, make bigger chunks of money. It's another game. I think Chris is getting ready to jump into that game, but right now he wants you to bring him deals. So if you enjoyed this video, go and watch the video right here that's Sub 2 A to Z. I do a whole 45-minute walkthrough of how Sub 2 works and how he can even buy these planes, taking over somebody else's payments, buying them on seller finance. Hell, he's even getting some planes for free, literally, quite literally. I want you guys to go and watch that video. And in the meantime, go down below, follow Chris on Instagram. It is Chris Does Deals. Go DM him, send him some deals, make sure you follow him, send him a message and say, thank you for all this information, Chris. We'll see you guys in the next video.